The Indianapolis Colts are at a crossroads right now. Anthony Richardson is injured again. Daniel Jones seems to be sniffing at the starting job, ironically. And he seemed to be searching for an identity with an offensive minded head coach. So let's get into what happened in the offseason and what the future holds for Shane Steichen and the Indianapolis Colts. Let's get into it. The Indianapolis Colts are heading into the 2025 season without a lot of uncertainty. And as we wrap up the AFC South preview for our preseason reviews, I have to be honest, this team gives me weird vibes. You know, the kind of vibes that a person gives you that are socially awkward in the club and you feel like they probably shouldn't be there, but they are anyway. This gives you weird vibes, and this team gives me weird vibes. And it starts with the quarterback position. Now, Anthony Richardson, a former fourth overall pick in draft 2 years ago, is going into the season with yet another injury. Now, we can cite a myriad of reasons why he seems to be constantly banged up or injured for a multitude of reasons, but he is in that particular mode. And they brought Daniel Jones in from the Giants via the Vikings when he was jettisoned from New York on Minnesota's practice squad in the last 2024 iteration of that season. So where are we at here in regards to what the quarterback position is, what they're doing in the offseason, Shane Steichen on the hot seat potentially if this does not work in this iteration. It's a lot to be discussed. And so we're going to dive into it. We're going to talk about exactly what we have looked at and witnessed with the offseason, the free agency signings, their draft picks, their coaching changes, and just give an overall outlook of what the season's going to look like and break down their schedule and just give a decent prediction on what the Colts should look like in 2025. So what should we expect at this early look? Again, the Colts give me a lot of weird vibes. There's a lot of strangeness going on in this organization. Now, I will say that, some of it could be due to the transitioning of Jim Irsay, may he rest in peace, and things of that nature. But, that's the thing that need to be watched as well, because of the regime change, because of his passing. I think his family is taking over the reins in regards to the day-to-day runnings, of the actual organization. So there's going to be a lot of changes, to say the least. And I would argue that depending on what the Colts look like in 2025 could dictate a lot of who's going to be here in the future, who's not. But if you had to break down the team in its entirety, it's not bad. It's just a question of who are they, what is their identity, and things of that nature. So let's break down everything they've done in the offseason, and we'll try to make heads or tails of what they've got going on for the new upcoming season. So, all right, so starting with the offseason free agency period. Now, I will say this, and if you watch the Colts, with a close eye as I have it over the past several years. For fantasy purposes and just NFL coverage in general, they don't do things traditionally. They have a quirky way of doing things, just to be honest. So, it wasn't a whole lot of shaking up being done in the free agency market. They did go out and get Cam Bynum, 4-year, $60 million deal, free safety to come in and solidify that room. They were definitely lacking talent at free safety from the guys of Rodney McLeod and a few others that have gone on and are no longer with the team. So they went out and got him to shore up that safety spot of defense, along with him and Nick Cross, who I actually love. Kid out of Maryland, very highly athletic and very talented, strong safety that they have in-house. They went out and got Tre'Davious Ward, who's a free agent, 3 years, $60 million as well from the 49ers, who was a free agent. Again, talking about Daniel Jones at the top of all this, he's on a 1-year deal with $14 million as the quote-unquote competition to Anthony Richardson. And, there are rumors that he may be stiffening the starting job, depending on what Shane Steichen is feeling at the moment. We don't know. But interesting, to say the least, interesting. Then he went out and signed a Neville Gallimore, defensive lineman, to a 1-year deal, signed Corey Ballantyne, a reserve cornerback. They re-signed Ashton Dulin, a wide receiver that they've kept in-house for the last few years. Signed Khalil Herbert to a 1-year deal. And then they released Raekwon Davis. So, again, not a whole lot to scream at. I think Tre'Davious Ward and Cam Bynum are the big, notable name signings. And, of course, Daniel Jones being a backup / maybe starting quarterback. So, yeah, I mean, not a whole lot to speak about here, what they've done. Not a whole lot of noise, but not silent either. So I think they addressed at least the safety and quarterback spot, what they definitely needed to address. Only thing I would argue they didn't address, they probably should have, as linebacker. But in the draft or free agency, I don't think they did either. But we'll see how things shake. But that's what they did in the free agency spot. So moving on to the draft. The draft was interesting. I think the top end of the draft and maybe the middle part was pretty decent. Still got questions about a couple of these guys, but again, yet another quirky draft. No quirkiness about their first overall pick though. The 14th pick overall in the first round, Tyler Warren, bonafide stud. I think everybody and their mama had him slated and mock going to the Colts because they were desperately in need of a tight end because they just couldn't seem to get that position right. Much like my Chargers in years past, right? Just can't seem to get that position right. No matter who they brought in, guys would never stick, couldn't block, couldn't catch. It was just a big mess. And I think they solved all of that and then some with a guy like Tyler Warren. Very good blocking and receiving tight end. Like he does it all. He's a full package. I would argue that he's one of the top three tight ends in this draft. And it just depends on stylistically who you like better. Clay more Coates than Loveland. I think we're the top two. I think Mason Taylor is sniffing that conversation as well once you see him play for the Jets. So, yes, I believe that for sure that Tyler Warren was a slam dunk pick. Can't go wrong with that. Another weapon for whoever's going to play quarterback. And then the second overall pick they got in 45 was JT Tuimoloau, edge rusher from Ohio State. Another solid pickup to add depth to that edge rushing room, which was already pretty loaded. Then we went out in the third round, got a cornerback, Justin Wiley, depending on how you pronounce it in Minnesota. Out of Minnesota, obviously playing college football there. Question marks in regards to that. I saw some other names that I felt they were a little bit of a better skill set. Again, that's the quirkiness of the Colts. They pick guys that you don't necessarily feel like are household names, and sometimes they hit, sometimes they don't. But that's what they do. So that they drafted Justin Wiley in the third round. In the fourth round, they went out and got Jalen Travis, a tackle from Iowa State, trying to add some competition in that room. I think they have him slated more so as playing the interior O-line. He did play tackle in college, but I think they have him slated to play interior O-line. But on the depth chart, at least he's backing up Braden Smith at this moment at right tackle. So we'll see. But I think he might be better suited or utilized if he develops properly into maybe an interior O-lineman. In the fifth round pick, they got DJ Giddens, running back from Kansas State. I love that pick. Now, granted, you got Jonathan Taylor, the bell cow. That's not a term used widely around the league anymore. There's a lot of committee running back rooms in the NFL, but Jonathan Taylor is the bell cow for this team. He's going to be the primary guy, but to have a guy to spell you like DJ Giddens, I think it was a great pick. I did like that pick at 5 in the fifth round, 151. Kansas State running back. He's definitely a underrated talent and in house that could back up and play some significant snaps for Jonathan Taylor if he has to go out and get a breather, get a break, things of that nature, so he won't burn him out early on in the season. But yes, good running back room. I mean, you got Khalil Herbert, Taylor, and Giddens. I think they're definitely doing the right thing in regards to running the football with their running back room. So I like what they're doing there. Then another question mark going out and getting quarterback Riley Leonard from Notre Dame. 6th round pick to help out in this quarterback room as well. So you got Anthony Richardson, Daniel Jones, and him competing for the quote unquote starting job, air quote starting job. So I don't know what's going on there. But he had some success in college, struggled a little bit at the combine, which is the reason probably why he dropped to the 6th round and things of that nature. But I think that that was an interesting pick on what they're doing there. Maybe just a depth piece. I'm not sure. In the 6th round, another pick they had at 190 is Tim Smith, defensive lineman interior from Alabama. Not much to say about him. Mainly a run-stopping guy, but again, not of a highly touted one. Maybe a developmental pick as well here to see if they can get out of him and build in that room that they have with some guys in already that are really good at the position. In the 7th round, they went out and got safety Hunter Woland from Wisconsin. Don't know much about him in all honesty. Wasn't on many draft boards. Again, another quirky pick that guys that you don't necessarily know that are household names, from that perspective. But they saw something in them to pick him at 232. So they took him in the 7th round, and there you have it. So those are draft picks. I really like the Tyler Warren pick, the JT pick, the DJ Giddens pick. Outside of that, a little bit of questions there. I don't know about the Riley Leonard pick on others, but we'll see how these guys shake and how they develop in camp here in the next few days when they get going in training camp. So we'll see how things roll. But so interesting picks here. About half I like, half I kind of shake my head. So moving on to trades and coaching staff changes. No significant trades that they've made, but they did change defensive coordinators. They moved on from their previous defensive coordinator and signed Lou Almirudo. Now, I can harp on who the defense coordinator was previously, but I'm not going to, stomp on his grave right now because I'm more focused on the hiring of Lou Anarumo because Lou Anarumo was the guy that was jettisoned from the Bengals. That was basically, taking the blame. He was the fall guy. Lou Anarumo was the fall guy for the Bengals' lack of success on defense in 2024. So to hire him was very interesting. Most guys that were deemed the fall guy don't get a job right off the cuff. So that's an interesting take that they did and went out and got Rumo. Shane Steichen hired him right away. Didn't wait a whole lot. Didn't kind of see what else was out there and say I'm going to figure that out and maybe talk to him later. He brought him in right away. So now the question is, if he can do better and have better success with this Colts defense, which has better personnel, was it Lou Anarumo's fault or was it the Bengals' lack of personnel? That's going to be the question. But yet again, just from the optics perspective, that you kind of question the idea of having Lou in the house because again, how bad he looked as a coach with the Bengals last season. So you would think that they would kind of let it simmer maybe a year or two, maybe go back to college and coach or do some position work and then come back to the coordinator role and do things differently. But nope, gave him a job right away, straight away. And they needed a change in defensive coordinator, and that's what they did. They went out and got Lou Anarumo, and he's going to be the new defensive coordinator for this loaded defensive set in Indianapolis. So, yeah, man, with the personnel he has, he should be better. Because again, they're very lacking in personnel in Cincinnati, but we'll see. It is going to be a tail sign. If Lewis struggles with this personnel grouping, it was him. If he does not struggle and they actually flourish and do pretty good on defense, it was definitely with the Bengals personnel. So that'll tell a tale. But interesting hire nonetheless. I'm going to be watching with a keen eye to see if he has better success in Indy than he did in Cincy. So we'll see how things go. But there's your defensive coordinator. That's the only real significant coaching change that they made in Indy in 2025. All right, so moving on, before we talk about the schedule, I guess we can say that, to kind of caveat this whole idea of what the Colts are or aren't going to be in 2025. Like I said, we'll talk about the coaching staff and the change they made in defensive coordinator, but let's talk about the quarterback position for a second before we actually look at the schedule. So the season really harps on this, and that's the quarterback position. I think you have to establish an identity. I think you should lean on the run game first. Utilize Jonathan Taylor, and things of that nature, and then let that run game feed the passing game because you have three good running backs. You have a plethora of good receivers. I'm looking at 3 or 4, maybe 5 guys that can definitely contribute at a high level. That they've drafted well. They brought guys in and developed guys pretty well. It's just a question of the quarterback consistency and being able to get them the ball. So the idea of what they're going to be is going to hinge on the quarterback. Now, I don't like this whole issue with, the idea of bringing in Daniel Jones, to be honest. It's one thing to add competition to the room. It's one thing to, threaten the idea of replacing your guy you drafted 4th overall. You're not giving a full stint. And I think that a little bit of, I guess you can say, accountability needs to be had for the Colts coaching staff of not protecting Anthony Richardson properly. I understand he's a stout, very muscular and Cam Newton like quarterback, right? But the mistakes they made with Cam Newton, the same thing mistake they're making with Anthony Richardson. Is not protecting him, not getting him to the point where he's a true and classic pocket quarterback, getting him comfortable being a pocket quarterback and not just a runner. He has the ability to run. He has an unlimited arm. He has all the talents, all the tools to be an NFL quarterback. But the nuances in the upstairs mentality of understanding the position and what it all entails has to be considered here. It has to be considered. And then I feel like they failed him in that space. So between him being in danger with running the football and getting banged up a lot in his first few seasons, and him checking out the game because he was tired and all this things that people kind of classify him as being immature about. I think you need to honestly and truly, hone in on the idea of really giving him one good final shot at being a starter, assuming his health is right by the time training camp starts and he can throw the football without hindrance. If you do that and you basically, exhaust all your avenues and say that by year 3, he just really wasn't grasping it. He really wasn't getting it. He may need more time, but it might be a situation where we need to move on because, again, the draft class next year is going to be reloaded with quarterbacks. So this is seeming like a make or break year for Shane Steichen and Anthony Richardson for them to get it right in their marriage together. So I would not, be threatening the idea of having guys look over his shoulder with Daniel Jones and Riley Leonard. I would not have done that. In all honesty, if you're going to pick a guy fourth overall, you give him every opportunity through his 4 to 5 year contract to be able to see whether he can get the job done. If he can't, then that's when you move on. But I really don't think they're giving him, there may be something they see that I don't see, but I think they're giving him the short end of the deal when it comes down to the idea of him being a franchise quarterback. So I think they should do that. But overall, that's what's going to hinge. If you can get what you need to get out of Anthony Richardson, he can stay healthy, and he flourishes as a good NFL quarterback, then you keep pushing. If not, maybe hand the reins over to Daniel Jones midseason or Riley Leonard and just kind of, throw it in the tank and feel like that you're going to go back out into the ether and get your new quarterback from the college ranks in 2026. But, I would definitely figure that out early and try to see if you can compete. If you can't, go into the tank and just get yourself a new quarterback and maybe sell a front office on the idea that hold on and have some faith in me. And and for this is Steichen I'm talking about here, have some faith in me. We can go out and get a new guy and we can make it work. So if they can't do that and you can't sell a front office on that, I got a feeling that Steichen's going to be out and they're going to be doing a whole lot of house cleaning with this new regime. So we'll see how things go, man. But it's definitely looking like it's going to be a very telling first quarter of the season when it comes down to what the Colts can do in the schedule. And with that being said, the schedule actually works out pretty well for them, in my opinion, outside of a couple of games. So they got the Dolphins first, which is a winnable game. The Broncos going to be a tough one. Titans is a winnable game. Him and Cam Ward going against each other. That should be interesting. Rams going to be a tough one. The Raiders is a winnable game, in my opinion. The Cardinals is a winnable game. Then they got the Chargers on the 19th. Outside of us wearing those yellow jerseys in that game, I don't know if that's winnable or not. We'll see. The Titans again, they got them again in the first half of the season is winnable. The Steelers going to give you a tough go. Falcons is a coin flip, and you got a bye week. So I think about week 11, if you hadn't figured it out, I think it's time to just throw it in the tank and then figure it out for next season. But yeah, I mean, because it's gonna get rough after that. You got KC, the Texans, the Jags, which we don't know who they are. The Seahawks, the 49ers, the Jags again, and then you got the Texans that wrap it all up. So yeah, it's gonna get rough at the back half of the season. So they're gonna have to come out to a hot start and get the first, I would say 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 games. If they can be above 500 in the first 10 games, then keep rolling. If not, throw it in the tank. So we'll see how things go. But overall, man, that's my particular prediction for the schedule and what they're going to do. Offseason grades, I give them a C plus. I wasn't thrilled with the whole list of their draft. Some pieces I like, some that I didn't. Their free agency moves was so I give them a C plus. My predictions is I think that they could ultimately be either 7, 8, maybe 9 wins or 4 to 5. It really just depends on what the quarterback looks like and who's starting. That is a big question mark. You can't give a full down prediction unless you know who the quarterback is, and we don't know who that is at this moment. Is Anthony Richardson going to be healthy? Could Daniel Jones out supersede him? We don't know. So all those question marks will remain until we get some clarity at the end of August. But overall, man, if the quarterback play, whoever it is, plays decent, I think they can squeak out maybe 7, 8, 9 wins. If not, it'd be 4 to 5 wins to be picking high in the draft, and they'd be looking at a Drew Allers or Arch Manning or somebody like that in the next year's draft to be the new starting quarterback, in my opinion. So we'll see. But as always, man, we're going to wrap this up at the AFC South is done this week, and we're going to be back next week with the NFC West talking about that. As always, if you look for the Hit Squad, there's their socials. If you need to reach out to them, the Commanders Inside, the Chiefs Inside, and Chargers Inside are all available to you for any NFL or team-related questions. The Lockdown Defense Sports Network is available as well in all your facets of your social media areas. We definitely can be reached out there. Reach out to us directly if you need any questions or have any I guess just inquiries about the channel. Hit that subscribe button as always on YouTube. Let us know we're doing big things out here. We're trying to move this channel to high heights and deeper depths. As always, man, we'll be back next week with more videos, and we're going live Tuesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with another off-season blitz. So check that out as well. But as always, man, I'm your boy, Coach Defense. Until then, as always, you got to do one thing and one thing well. Step up and lock it down.